Hello, we're going to visit the Old Testament Bible book of Daniel this time, and it's on Search for Truth, your Bible teaching programme with your teacher Brian Johnston. I'm John, your host, and I'm delighted to welcome you. It's our third study in this Minutes to Midnight series. In the first talk, Brian asked, "Are we nearly there?" And study number 2 considered the prophecy in Genesis 3 and verse 15, the mother of all prophecy. And today, it's the final world empire, looking into the book of Daniel. So now here's Brian.
Thanks, John. Ever since I was a boy, I've loved the Bible book of Daniel. Stories such as his escape from a lion's den. I later became aware that there were people who treated the book of Daniel with suspicion. Was it genuine history or merely exaggerated stories? I remember being thrilled when hearing how archaeological discoveries had uncovered an artifact known as the Nabonidus cylinder. This object gave telling, even compelling evidence to show that we can indeed put our trust in the book of Daniel, in its every word. The names on that cylinder's inscription established the co-regency of 2 kings, a father and son, at the time that fully justified Daniel being rewarded with the honour of becoming the 3rd in the kingdom, as the Bible text had stated in Daniel chapter 5 verse 16. It's that attention to detail that confirms accuracy. One book once written as a reasoned defence of the book of Daniel was entitled Daniel in the Critic's Den. I liked that. Daniel, or at least his book, had once again escaped unscathed. The book of Daniel is a book of 2 halves. The first half is basically historical narrative. This is the part we use in Sunday schools with children. The second half contains prophecy that takes us all the way to the time of the end, that is, to the time of the end of this world's empires. They are brought to an end when Christ establishes his kingdom in this world. The book Daniel is also a book of 2 languages. It was written in Hebrew, as was the vast majority of the Old Testament, but also partly in Aramaic, the international language at the time of writing. There is naturally a significance to this in that its prophetic outline spans 2 distinct programs. One program is for the Jewish people, and the other program is for the international world at large. Before we say any more about these programs, I'm interested to turn to Daniel's last chapter, chapter 12. Here we are talking about the future time of the end of world empires. Now, at that time, Michael, the great prince who stands guard over the sons of your people, will arise, and there will be a time of distress, such as never occurred since there was a nation until that time. And at that time, your people, everyone who is found written in the book, will be rescued. But as for you, Daniel, keep these words secret and seal up the book until the end of time. Many will roam about and knowledge will increase. That's Daniel chapter 12 and the first 4 verses. This talks about a future time of distress for God's ancient people Israel. It's worth making it clear that we don't believe in any so-called replacement theology, in which the church, meaning all believers, has replaced Israel in God's plans. For now, yes, Israel is set aside, as Paul argues in Romans chapter 11. But soon God will revive his dealings with his Old Testament people. He's certainly not broken, nor will he ever break his literal promises to Abraham. His renewed dealings with Israel, however, will start with their purging or refining. A time of distress is predicted for Israel. What we see happening now is consistent with paving the way for that. In many places, anti-Semitic feeling is on the rise. But then Daniel, we read, is told to keep these words secret. It's to be a closed book. Only at the time near to the end of world empires will the meaning of Daniel's writings become clear. I want to suggest that time is now. Daniel's prophecies have been variously interpreted. There have been some wild speculations, And there have also been some carefully reasoned positions that have commanded respect, being worthy of consideration, but key information was not previously available. Immediately after saying that this writing of Daniel is to remain a closed book, we find the words, "Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase." This phrase has often, perhaps usually, been understood to be speaking of an increase of transportation and of the ease of access to information in the last days. But is that what it means? It could make sense if it was understood that way, for sure. The world has shrunk in the sense that we can jet around it and talk in terms of it becoming a global village. Computer power doubles every couple of years, and now the concern is about taming the use of artificial intelligence, or AI. But if we use the standard major key to unlock the interpretation of any Bible verse, and that key is about observing its context, then we see that the words, "Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase," they follow on directly after the sealing up of Daniel's prophecy. This would indicate that the increasing knowledge can be seen instead as a reference to the gradual opening up of the prophecy by those who are diligently searching for understanding by scanning the pages of the book of Daniel. The running to and fro would then involve searching the book through and through, roaming backwards and forwards over its pages, scrutinizing it over and over, until at last, at the end of the age, the book is finally unsealed and fully understood by the believing community. That explanation of this famous verse, I must say, commends itself to me. World concern is increasingly focused on the Middle East. The same geographical areas that were a threat to Israel in history are again a source of likely threat to that nation in modern times. In verse 9 of the same last chapter, Daniel is once again informed that the revelation given to him will not be fully understood until the time of the end. What's the point of this, we might ask ourselves? It means that the primary purpose of the revelation was to inform those who would live in the time of the end. Daniel himself was kept from understanding. Bible students 100 years or 80 years ago, perhaps even 20 years ago, couldn't know it either. 75 years ago, Israel gained independence in its ancient homeland, or at least in part of it. And the last 20 years have seen the emergence of what's called the Islamic State. Emergence, or should we say re-emergence? For the Islamic Caliphate is the historical Islamic government or empire which began in 632 AD, shortly after the death of Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam. For a long time it endured, and then it culminated in the Ottoman Empire, which officially came to an end in 1923, just 100 years ago. The historical Islamic Caliphate fully, absolutely, and completely conquered all the lands of the previous Babylonian, Medo-Persian, and Greek empires, and became a successor empire to them. In contrast to the Roman Empire, that tolerated the culture of those peoples it overran, and even built their roads, the Islamic Caliphate, from its inception, was a supremacist force that crushed and obliterated the cultures and religions of the peoples it conquered. This is due to the all-encompassing ideology of Islam, which includes every facet of life. It has rules and commandments that extend to far more than just theology, dictating the law, government, language, military, and even the sexual and hygienic practices of those under its authority. The very name Islam means submission. Islam conquered all the regions of the former Babylonian, Medo-Persian, and Grecian empires. It exported and imposed the Arabic language onto a vast proportion of its conquered peoples. The Messianic kingdom that Daniel saw coming in his visions specifically destroys the Fourth World Empire. But in doing so, we see that by virtue of the destruction of this Fourth Empire, or kingdom of the end-time Antichrist, then at the same time, Babylon, Medo-Persia, and Greece are also all destroyed. For we read this, "While you were watching, a rock was cut out, but not by human hands. It struck the statue on its feet of iron and clay and smashed them. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were broken to pieces at the same time." Daniel chapter 2, verses 34 and 35. Simply stated, if the Roman Empire were fully revived today to the point of its greatest extent, and Jesus returned and fully destroyed it, Babylon, Medo-Persia, and Greece could not be said to be all destroyed at the same time. Roughly 2/3 of all three empires would be left untouched. On the other hand, if the Islamic Caliphate were fully revived today, and Jesus returned and conquered it, then Babylon, Medo-Persia, and Greece could also be said to all be completely destroyed as well. The Islamic Caliphate fulfills the requirements of the text, but the Roman Empire does not. So the question is, can we now know what was previously unknowable? Could the unnamed Fourth World Empire in the book of Daniel be the Islamic Caliphate?
If you'd like the text of what you've just heard so you can read it again in your own time, plus all the other talks on this topic, you can freely download a soft copy of the book that contains this whole series of studies. It's called Minutes to Midnight. Just go online to churchesofgod.info/search-for-truth. And if you prefer a hard copy book, you can click the link in the same site address, that's churchesofgod.info/search-for-truth. Now, once you're in the site, you'll find details of our partner publishers and how to order a hard copy book. There'll be a charge for the books provided by online retailers. If you'd like to contact us, we'd love to hear from you, so do get in touch via our contact page. The address is churchesofgod.info/contact. If you don't use the internet, then write to our postal address. Pop us a line to Search for Truth, Hayes Press, The Barn, Flaxlands, Royal Button Bassett, Swindon, SN48DY, UK. Our email address is sft@churchesofgod.info. So, many thanks for your company today, and I hope you'll be able to join me again next week when we look again to Daniel to learn more about his Fourth World Empire. But until then, it's goodbye and very best wishes from us. That's your Bible teacher Brian, studio producer David, our singers and me, John. So do take care, see you again soon, and in the meantime we wish you God's richest blessings. God